There's a police presence at Beresfield now, and the presence will continue. There are no plans to do anything with Beresfield Police Station.
We're past the age where police officers sit behind desks in police stations waiting for the call after something happened.
%70 of all coal mining in New South Wales happens at mines like this in the Muswellbrook and Singleton areas. That activity generates more than $1 billion in royalties for the state government each year. Now the local councils want a piece of the pie.
Well, it only makes sense to bring some of the money back that allows for the infrastructure that we don't see developed in the area.
Muswellbrook Council has already pulled out of the Association of Mining-Related Councils, and now Singleton is considering following suit. They're unhappy with the group's push for New South Wales to adopt the WA model, which sees such royalties distributed right across the state.
We don't necessarily want a bucket full of money landed in our local government area. We just want a fair proportional things done to our area that allow for the community that lives here.
The capacity of 7,000 ratepayers to safely, fairly support the local road infrastructure required to support the state significant developments this shire has and Singleton Shire has is just impossible.
Instead, Mayor Rush wants 5% of royalties generated from the Hunter Valley put back in the community they came from.
To enable local government to keep pace with the expansion of mining and the intensification of mining in those two shires.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
It's a massive facility with a long production line, but with about 90 skilled workers, it takes Volgren just 32 days to complete a bus from start to finish. At its peak, the bodybuilding factory will be churning out one of these every 2 days, a 56-seat Volvo articulated bus, otherwise known as a bendy bus. Today, state ministers, along with Volgren and Volvo staff, celebrated the opening of the $18 million Tomago factory and a $112 million government contract.
The business here is building 150 articulated buses such as we see behind us, a contract for Sydney buses.
Starting as a Volvo chassis, the buses pass through 16 workstations featuring auto electricians, welders, fabricators and spray painters. The region's broad skills base and train manufacturing experience is being put to good use.
We're in the middle of the global financial crisis and the sourcing of people was going to be a real issue. So we chose the Hunter because of the supply of labour.
Volgren hopes to employ 150 people in the near future. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
A grand end to the cruise ship season. Dutch vessel MS Volendam testing Newcastle waters for the first time.
It's a fantastic coup for Newcastle. Holland America Line is a very popular cruise line, and to bring it here to Newcastle is a fantastic achievement.
It brought 1,400 passengers from all over the world.
Calgary, Canada. Argentina, Buenos Aires.
Had you heard of Newcastle before coming here?
No.
And the Hunter didn't miss the opportunity to impress.
Semyon, Shiraz and Vidello, and we've put those on board the ship today. They're going to do some tastings with the guests, and hopefully we'll be able to explore some business opportunities.
The Volendam is big business. Tickets for the 34-day tour cost up to $24,000. The 11-year-old ship has all the usual luxuries, but the centrepiece is the theatre and the cooking demonstration room. The only negative today was for those who wanted to get off.
It is not as convenient as normally, where when you are docked you have the gangway out and the passengers can go ashore as they please.
The Volendam's next stop is Eden on the south coast. Nat Wallace, NBN News.
Juliet Rosendahl has lived with severe pain nearly all of her life after being diagnosed with juvenile arthritis as a young girl.
I missed a lot of school. I hardly had any education because of it. And my life has been really altered by having arthritis, and I wanted to make a difference.
She certainly has. Despite her own suffering, she's been a tireless worker not only for arthritis patients, but also for lupus disease and a range of disability causes. Her most recent achievement, the establishment of a juvenile arthritis clinic at the John Hunter Children's Hospital. The Steel Magnolia Award, presented by Lifeline, recognition of her life's work so far.
Those achievers and the quiet achievers that really underpin our society and contribute so much.
You can easily become a victim if you've got a chronic painful illness that disables you and stops you mixing with the rest of the world. It isolates you, and it was really important for me to rise above that.
And her work is far from finished.
I don't think I can live long enough for all the things I've got ready in my brain that I want to do.
I hope you do.
Well, I'm going to try.
Good on you. That's wonderful.
As his teammates continued to enjoy the spoils of victory, Matt Hilder was happy to have the last laugh after a running battle with his opposite number at the weekend. Missed by on-field officials and the video referee, this shot could now cost Michael Ennis a week on the sideline. Not that Hilder remembers much about it.
I realised I've sort of been hit. So I sort of had a look on the big screen and it was my old mate Mick Innes hit me over the head with his forearm.
Hilder's wholehearted effort at hooker didn't go unnoticed either, but he's likely to now make way for the Player of the Year, Isaac de Gois, who's ready to meet Melbourne.
Isaac sort of got through 50 minutes without blowing a candle out really in New South Wales Cup there yesterday, so mate, he's definitely going to be considered for this weekend.
Bad news for Ben Rogers, who dislocated his elbow in the same game. Adam McDougall, though, will pressure for a spot this week in the top grade after missing the season opener, while this is a sight that should please all league fans. Kurt Gidley ran today for the first time since injuring his hamstring a month ago, and he remains on target for a return in round 4.
I've just got to take it easy, I suppose. I'd certainly be very disappointed if I re-hurt it at training, but certainly I want to be 100% before I play again.
He's now 28 and more than one observer thought Glenn Hall's breakthrough win may never come, but the man called Mike Rose still has big plans for the professional surfing circuit.
Yeah, my goal is really just to be on, have a crack at WCT. I think that's every surfer's goal that competes, so yeah, that's the plan.
He was unstoppable in yesterday's Surfest final, posting the highest wave and heat scores of the day to claim a win close to many people's hearts.
It's part of the family. Glenn, he's been very close to us since he was about 9-10 years of age. Stays at the house all the time, and very close with my son, and I'm part of the family.
The contest has a running start for next year thanks to the state government confirming another $165,000 in funding, along with Newcastle Council's $22,000.
So that's a really good start for us. We're well on the way now, and I'm sure with the support from the other sponsors that have indicated their continuing support, we're well on the way, mate.
The real issue is scheduling. The final clashed with a major surf contest in Sydney, which drew away some top contenders, and everyone is keen to make sure that doesn't happen again.
There's a better chance for us next year to all work together and deliver a product that's better for Newcastle, New South Wales, and everyone concerned.
Bushwalkers discovered the man's body in a shallow grave in dense bushland in the Wattigan Mountains on Saturday. Police have taken 2 days to exhume the remains, with officers keeping the grim find a secret until late yesterday.
Obviously suspicious circumstances there. As a result, we've had scientific police up investigating the scene.
Today, police released the first details of the man's physical appearance. He's described as being European with a medium build, aged somewhere between 20 and 40 and 174 centimetres tall. An autopsy is being carried out here at the John Hunter Hospital. Police say until its results are in, they won't know how long the body was in the ground or the cause of the man's death. And that could take weeks.
We have various avenues that we may be able to pursue to identify the person, those being DNA analysis, perhaps dental records or perhaps fingerprints, all depending on the condition of the body.
Police have created Strike Force Beamish, comprising Lake Macquarie detectives and the State Crime Command's homicide squad to investigate the suspected murder. They've also criticised reports that the body could be that of 27-year-old Jay Riley, who went missing from Cardiff last December.
That's purely speculation. We don't engage in speculation, so I certainly wouldn't entertain a speculation at this point in time.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Led out of Maitland local court to a nearby paddy wagon this morning, 45-year-old Raymond Terrace man Wayne Mulhern. The casual bus driver had just faced a bail hearing after being charged with child grooming, inciting an act of indecency and committing an act of indecency on a person under 16. Police told the court further charges are likely.
Police opposed bail given the nature and seriousness of the offence, but the 45-year-old man said he had nowhere to stay anyway as he wasn't welcome at his current address.
Mulhern was arrested yesterday at his workplace, Hunter Valley Buses, and was taken to Maitland Police Station to be interviewed. In police facts tendered to the court, officers allege Mulhern met the girl while he was working in June 2008 when she was 12 and began communicating with her via mobile phone and the internet. It's also claimed Mulhern made a number of attempts to meet with her again and did so in November last year when the indecent assault allegedly occurred, which police claim was inappropriate kissing. He also allegedly sent the victim roses and a gold necklace. The 13-year-old school contacted her family in March, notifying it of the alleged gifts which prompted the investigation. Mulhern was refused bail and is due to reappear in Maitland Court tomorrow. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Community and council frustrations over the redevelopment of Singleton's Gowrie Street Mall could be coming to an end. Developers Macquarie Countrywide Trust will visit the site tomorrow and are expected to lodge amended plans with council.
It's back on track again now, and I believe that once these amended plans are approved that things should go ahead.
After more than 2 years, this is as far as the developers have got. Some of that delay has been blamed on the global financial crisis. A lot hinges on work starting.
It's the impetus that we need to get the whole CBD going. It's like a catalyst for our streetscape redevelopment that we've been planning for some time also. It will connect the main street with the other shopping centre.
Council says its hands are tied as it can't force developers to speed up the process.
I'm optimistic that they will proceed with the development as planned.
It's hoped stage 1 of the redevelopment will start this year. Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
Everyone's worst nightmare. 4,500 New South Wales families were confronted with scenes like these last year alone.
And then I went and got Richard up, and he got one child and I got the other child, and we got outside, and next thing the house was just gone.
Crews are on standby as the house fire season approaches.
The winter months can be a period where we can have a higher increase of structure fires, particularly in the home.
This time, they'll be armed with a new kit, a handout for families on what they can do when they've lost everything.
It gives them an idea of how to move forward, because naturally most people, when they've had a house fire, they're quite distressed, and it's just the fire brigade's way of helping people in the recovery process.
There's a guide to assessing structural safety and a list on dealing with insurance companies, but the fire brigade is hoping it won't have to hand out the kit at all.
The fire brigade's focus in the past has been on mainly response. We are now changing our focus to prevention.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
There's no doubting the impact of the global financial crisis in Australia and overseas, but the hunter may have escaped its full force. According to a wellbeing survey, we were more financially secure in 2009 than before the economic downturn, researchers accrediting the mining boom, among other things.
Possibly when you go into a global financial crisis like that and there's all that media around it, that people are a bit more careful about how they spend their money.
In 2006, 45% of respondents found themselves without enough money to meet their everyday needs. 3 years later, that's fallen to 29%. Fewer people sought welfare and had trouble paying bills, but there was a significant spike in the number of residents unable to pay their rent or mortgage.
When things get tight, often it's people can't meet those repayments, and I think rental prices have gone up.
Researchers are keen to point out, though, that most of the 1,500 people they sampled are employed or retired.
This is a phone interview of residents in the region. That means these people have got a home, they've got a telephone line that we can reach them on, and so we're capturing a certain sort of level of the population.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
Oh, it's a dream come true. It's really good. It's a very good experience for my career.
More than 100 Year 9 and 10 students were involved in the study. Some used free weights, others used an elastic resistance tool, while the rest did nothing at all. Those who trained did so twice a week for 8 weeks and showed a remarkable increase in body composition and muscular strength.
Probably not surprising was that the free weights were slightly better than the elastic tubing, but both groups improved, certainly in comparison to a non-training group.
While the elastic tubing tool didn't prove quite as effective, researcher David Dr. Lubin says it's a good way of easing into resistance training and a cheaper alternative to free weights.
They have lots of advantages as well. Obviously they're very easy to use, probably slightly smaller chance of injury. The students seem to enjoy using them, very easy to use outdoors.
Physical education teachers agree there's a place in the classroom for the free weight alternative.
They sort of lose that embarrassment factor. The kids are not comparing how much weight they're lifting to each other, and they just seem to be the kids that seem to enjoy using them.
But don't just take their word for it.
And they're easy to get out quick, and all the other stuff takes ages to get out.
Well, with the free weights it's pretty heavy and sort of get tired a lot easier, but with these ones you can go for longer and do a lot more things.
Programs using the elastic tubing are being rolled out at schools across Australia. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
Second-year syndrome had hit James Nitties hard. After a standout rookie season on the US PGA Tour, he hadn't made it past 2 rounds in 6 events this year. He wasn't even heading to Puerto Rico, but a last-minute decision to play has paid big dividends. In what was a marathon effort for the entire field after monsoon-like weather pushed things into a 5th day, the longer Nitties went, the better he got. He wasn't able to catch runaway leader Derek Lamley, who won his first tour event. But after not making a cut this year, a closing round 69 got Nitties a share of 3rd, a result which will calm his nerves for much of the season ahead.
It sort of just solidifies that I am swinging it well, and you just think
out and be patient, and the results will come through.
And some cash as well. His first paycheck of the year came in at almost $184,000. The captain can't play until at least round 4, but if Kurt Gidley's men can deliver like they did against the Bulldogs, the wait will be worth it.
It was inspirational for me just sitting on the bench that they went out and done so well for the team and for the town and all our supporters. It's been great.
The job now is to keep the ball rolling.
It's the hardest thing in the NRL. You've got to do it every week. That's what the good teams do.
Matt Hilda has retained a starting spot but is sure to move around against Melbourne, given regular hooker Isaac de Gois will make his return to the NRL from the bench on Saturday night. Although the Knights have lost Junior Sau from the back line due to a broken rib, it appears Adam McDougall is right to go.
He's telling me he is. Well, we'll see how he goes by the time Thursday and Friday come around.
McDougall's younger brother Luke is now at the Storm, but the coach is keen to see the Mad Dog line up against another Melbourne star.
Doogie likes his matchups. I think he fancies himself against Inglis, so I can keep him on the right.
And no matter what, there's no backward steps when playing at home.
Winning 19 out of the last 21 games really at home, it's an imposing record and one that we're really proud of and something we're going to defend.
Chris Lees appeared on his way to Newmarket win number 1, but the fancied Mott Spur will now stay in the stable.
We've decided to scratch him due to the wide barrier.
And trainer Alan Scourse might not run looking for Lang.
We're going to wait till tomorrow morning. We've still got a little problem with his leg.
But at least something is on track for the locals. Beautiful Broadmeadow is a picture of health ahead of tomorrow's Group 3 sprint.
Track's perfect at the moment. It's a dead 4 at the moment and we're expecting it to be upgraded to a good 3 in the morning.
And Lady Luck is also shining on Alex Stokes. Doors continue to open for the apprentice, with the 22-year-old picking up a ride.
Try not to think about it as any other race, so it doesn't work myself up too much. Yeah.
Becoming the first local jockey to win the race in 11 years, though, won't be a walk in the park. Stokes will ride the unfancied all-time champion, whose last win was at Muswellbrook.
Probably a little bit hard, but he's a horse who tries his best every single time he goes around, and we've drawn a wide alley, which doesn't really help either, but we'll be giving our best.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
"74 carriages of coal slowly rolled into the new terminal this morning, and it took one very large ribbon to mark the occasion. This train carried 7,200 tonnes of coal, the first load of export coal that will pass through the third loader at Kooragang. It's a milestone for the billion-dollar project.
What it demonstrates, I think, is that at least half of our operation actually works.
This coal will be put on a ship bound for Japan by the end of the month. That process will also be used as a trial and the next stage of the commissioning process.
We will be restricted initially with the size of the ships, but if we can get in there, we'll be sending smaller ships out on a regular basis, and to do that, trains will be coming in quite regularly as well.
It's predicted coal exports from Newcastle will double over the next decade, and it's not hard to see why. Planning approval has already been given for capacity to increase at the third loader from 30 million tonnes a year to 66 million tonnes. Port Waratah Coal Services also has plans to expand at the other two coal loaders. The third export terminal is expected to be fully operational in the next month or so. Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
Bicham's proposal to build a mine near Murrurundi has raised a lot of questions, mostly about its potential impact on the Pages River. Today's hearing was called to further explore those uncertainties. Bicham opened the hearing telling the panel the mine would create 280 full-time jobs, 100 more than first estimated, and that a thorough study has shown it will have a negligible impact on water supplies.
We certainly believe that the merits of the project would support it going forward to a Part 3A assessment.
Those speaking against the mine claimed water contamination will threaten the region's industries, in particular the lucrative thoroughbred business.
We don't want that reputation impaired in any way by people believing that our water is going to be either affected in terms of quantity or quality.
The panel also heard from a chorus of residents who believe the mine will revitalise dying towns.
I just think that Upper Hunter, Murrurundi especially, the area needs a big employer, and Bicham Coal is looking like it's going to be the one.
The panel's chairman says there's a lot of discrepancies and asked all stakeholders to provide additional information. Following the hearing, the panel will put together a report on the proposal that will be forwarded to the Department of Planning by the 30th of April and will also be made public. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
Peter Fox really is one of the state's finest. Today he received not one or two, but 4 police medals and certificates for achievements during his 32 years with the force. Of particular note was the local area command citation he picked up for his work on the Park family murder. Back in 1997, the bodies of Susan Park and her 2 young children were found inside suitcases dumped in the Wattigan Mountains. Their remains were left in Newcastle morgue for 11 years and would have been placed in an unmarked grave if not for the crime manager's intervention.
We made a lot of inquiries as to what was the most fitting way to bury them, and after contacting the family in China, they asked if they could be buried or placed in a Buddhist temple.
He then personally organised and fundraised for their cremation and a Buddhist funeral, and even represented the family during the service at Wollongong last year.
It was something that I will remember for the rest of my service and my life. It was very touching, and it was just very fulfilling and satisfying.
He says it was just something he felt compelled to do.
The award here today is very nice, but I think the real reward was the letter I got back from the family from China, their appreciation and their sentiments.
The view from above, but there's not a lot of time to take it in when you're calling the main race.
First Newmarket, and excited in that big field this year.
Some of Australia's best commentators today took turns describing the action at Broadmeadow, but it was the $140,000 Newmarket handicap that most came to see.
This year, the Newcastle Jockey Club can be really proud. The field is back to its very best.
There were group winners like Strat's Flyer and Boom 4-year-old Centennial Park, and punters stuck with the class.
The favourite is Centennial Park, as you can see there on the board, but there's been a lot of money early for the top weight, Strat's Flyer.
But in a race usually full of surprises, Walking or Dancing was the one they had to catch. Wyong trainer Brett Partelli surprised by the forward-running ride, but happy nonetheless.
As you say to Group 1 riders, the ball's in his court, and that's why Boss is one of the best in the country.
Jumped well, pressed forward and he was too good.
Would you like to stick with him in the Doncaster?
That's another decision I have to make yet.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
After arriving at the Jets last September as an injury replacement, by the season's end, Ali Abbas was a starting player and key retention target. Today, the club got its man for another season, and the smile said it all.
We're ecstatic and very thankful that he's decided to stay, and he's proven to be a valuable asset to the team.
While it's hard to offset the loss of captain Matt Thompson and midfielder Song, Abbas will go a long way to filling their boots.
I don't want to lose the position for first 11. I will do everything.
Once a star for Iraq, he's happy to call Newcastle home.
I feel great. I'm happy because I stay here for one more years. After that, I will if I have another opportunity, I will stay for a long time.
The other key signing is defender Lubo Milicevic. He's set to sign his deal tonight.
Lubo has certainly been great for Newcastle, and Newcastle's been great for Lubo.
It'd also round out a big week for the Jets, who've agreed to pay outstanding debts to the Knights for fees relating to home games last season.
We have the utmost respect for the Knights, and you'd like to think that they have the same thing with us.
Ryan Rowland-Smith has certainly made a name for himself in America, and not just because he's the first Major League player with a hyphenated surname. Now a regular starter on the mound for the Mariners, the Aussie is something of a marketer's dream, with the club making the most of what's now a running joke in its latest advertising campaign. A laugh to start a season which could help him earn serious money.
1 year, $3 million deal, that's what I'm looking for. Grant Balfour, another Australian, just signed a 1 year, $2.5 million deal, and he's a relief pitcher. As a starting pitcher, you should demand a little bit more money.
That's what Ryan has become for the Mariners. It's just a matter of where he lines up in their 5-man rotation this year, and his opening training games have been spot on. Seattle's campaign starts on April 5, the first of a 163-game-long season.
You learn it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. The season, it's a long season.
The Deputy Commissioner was full of praise for the Hunters' local area commanders during his brief visit to Port Stephens today.
I think the commanders here have their finger very much on the pulse of the community in the things they're doing.
And that, he says, has had a direct impact on crime.
The crime figures, they're down or steady in all crime areas.
Dave Owens now wants police to focus on reducing the Hunters' road toll and alcohol-related crime rate. Port Stephens Area Commander Charles Haggett used the visit to highlight the success his officers have had since the command was formed 2 years ago.
It is a new command and it's an opportunity for him to see how it's working, and there's been some fantastic results, and it's good to be able to gloat a bit, I suppose, to him to say, well, this is what we're achieving.
However, it's unlikely the region will get more officers, with commands officially being manned by more police than needed.
We've got to make sure that we're intelligence driven and we're putting the staff in the right places at the right time. And that doesn't necessarily equate to more numbers within this region.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It's a day many school children look forward to, a day off for the Newcastle show. But many business owners don't share the same feeling.
It's a full-blown public holiday. That's no different to any other public holiday in the year. The problem is, obviously, is that it's another day of public holidays that business can ill afford to have at the moment.
All Newcastle and Lake Macquarie employees are now entitled to the day off or to be paid regular public holiday rates. Reports suggest a holiday at least doubles the daily cost to run a business.
Business people and employers just don't see why business should be so heavily impacted by what is essentially just a local show. And it's meaning that we have to pay massive amounts of money to keep business operating on that day.
But regardless of the public holiday, it's expected most businesses will run as normal.
The retail sector, hospitality sector, most areas of business services, I believe, will still trade as normal, but will have to pay all of their staff public holiday rates.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
$350 dwellings planned for Lake Macquarie, including almost 50 in Swansea, would normally net the council more than $2.2 million in developer contributions, money which would be used to help the city accommodate as many as 1,000 new residents.
We can build facilities or continue to improve our facilities. Now that's not coming to us, and that's our significant concern.
That's because the dwellings are public housing and the state government is exempt from paying contributions if a development has 20 dwellings or less, but it's required to pay up to $5,000 for each additional dwelling. Council says once everything is paid, ratepayers will still be left with a multi-million-dollar bill for additional facilities and services.
The extra impacts will have to be covered from within Council's current process, and that will be extremely difficult.
Swansea residents also feel shortchanged.
More support for kids, more activities, infrastructure for children, support teenagers.
Member for Swansea Robert Coombs says his government's focus is on supplying housing for the needy and that waiving developer contributions is more responsible than having less housing. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
Council, as you know, has got a budget of about $180 million, so it's important that when we deliver services, we're meeting the needs of the community.
If you think this is just an ordinary group of blokes fiddling around in the shed, then you'd be wrong. This mob means business, and its business is speed. Using John Eggenhausen's dad's shed at Tomago near Newcastle, the men, who don't have any formal training, built an electric bike out of scraps.
We've taken an old dead motorcycle, we've paired it up with an old forklift motor, put some lead acid batteries in it.
John actually traded a $50 gift voucher for that old bike, and it paid off. This is their creation, setting a world land speed record in a particular electric category at a salt plain in South Australia. It reached an average speed of 177 kilometres an hour. It's not the first time the team has attempted a world mark. Last year it made the 4,000-kilometre round trip to Lake Gairdner, but the bike's motor melted. And it's no wonder. The forklift engine is 24 volts, but the lads have tweaked it to run at 144. The disappointment of that failed attempt motivated the team to get it right the next time.
So on the first run this time, when we got it out there and it didn't melt, exact opposite, elation.
John and Kieran think they can go even faster next year, especially given the motor wasn't even fully charged when they set the record.
We could have got to about 220 kilometres an hour out there, but next year we're aiming for 300 and I think we'll get there. Touch wood.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
Mark Bridge and Stuart Michalek were two of the Jets' best when Newcastle secured the A-League trophy.
I can remember Stewie on top of the speakers at that celebration, actually singing and dancing. But everyone was having a good time. I mean, celebrating after a great win.
Bridge scored the winning goal in 2008 and is hoping to repeat the performance against Melbourne this weekend. With Sky Blues veterans John Aloisi and Steve Corica ruled out, more responsibility has fallen on the former Jets, but that sits fine with Michalek. The Novocastrian enjoyed a tough start with FC and even contemplated a return to Newcastle.
I went through a bit of a stage where I was a little bit wild, but I've definitely turned that around since coming to Sydney, and I've got that out of my system.
His second season also began slowly, but ironically, his breakthrough performance came against Newcastle in round 7. He then saved his best goal for the Jets in round 26.
He's been excellent. He's had a great season, and he's the general in our midfield, so to speak.
No matter what the result this weekend, Michalek has decided to miss postseason festivities in the US and will also forfeit the chance to trial with overseas clubs in order to have surgery on an ongoing hip injury.
That was a risk that I didn't really want to take, and I'm keen to get in and get it sorted in the off-season.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Adam McDougall loves his matchups. His battles against Wendell Saylor over the years were a highlight, and in his return game from injury, he's picked out the best there is these days in Greg Inglis.
You know, I don't play rep football these days, so it's my sort of little bit of an opportunity to play the best players, and that's what it's always about.
Playing youngest brother Luke, however, is a far different story.
It's strange, but it's not something that I'm particularly looking forward to. Sort of one part of me sort of going to have to try not to cheer for him, and the other part of me is going to have to try and tackle him, so it's going to be a bit of a weird situation.
The coach can't wait to unleash the mad dog, especially after losing Junior Sau to a broken rib.
Really looking forward to seeing him play and hopefully adding a little bit of extra strike to our back line, and hopefully he gets a bit of ball.
Isaac de Gois will see plenty, with the rake to return from the bench from his knee reconstruction. But the biggest factor this weekend could be the home crowd. Newcastle won 10 from 12 at home last season and only plans on bettering that this year.
That's what we're looking for. That first 10, 15 to 20 minutes will be an important one. If we engage the crowd and do some good things and show them the sort of signs and the tenacity that we showed last week, I think it'll be a good night.
Hosting the World Club Champions, every bit will count.
You know, they probably haven't been in the grand final last 4 years for nothing.